20 years ago they were inseparable. Now, ruthless billionaire CEO Adrian Hale never expected to find Clara Jennings scrubbing the marble floors of his empire. Fate has thrown them together again, but can love survive the weight of decades, secrets, and the worlds between them? Before diving into the story, comment below where you're tuning in from today. The morning sun streamed through the towering glass windows of Hale Global, a skyscraper that glittered across the New York City skyline. At 39, Adrian Hale had everything he once dreamed of: a company worth billions that he had built from the ground up, a penthouse with views of Central Park, and the respect, or fear, of nearly everyone in the business world. Straightening the lapel of his tailored navy suit, Adrian stepped out of his private elevator. His assistant, Veronica, was waiting with her tablet. "Good morning, Mr. Hale. The board is assembled in the conference room, and the new custodial service began today. I've already had complaints that they're interfering with operations. Tell the board I'll join them in 5, Adrian said absently. As for the cleaning staff, just make sure they understand our standards. He strode across the polished lobby, mind already on the acquisition deal that would add another jewel to his growing empire. His life was running exactly according to plan, until his steps faltered. There, kneeling with a bucket and cloth, was a woman he thought he'd never see again. Clara Jennings. Her dark hair was tied back, her uniform plain, her hands red from scrubbing. She hadn't noticed him yet. But Adrian knew her instantly. The years had changed her face, adding lines of weariness, yet she was unmistakable. The girl he had once loved beneath the stars of their small hometown, the one who had promised forever beneath the old oak tree. He froze. His chest tightened. "Mr. Hale," Veronica said briskly, "the board is why." Adrian didn't move. His gaze was locked on Clara. As if sensing his eyes, Clara glanced up. For a single fleeting second, recognition blazed across her face, followed swiftly by shock and then pain. She looked away just as quickly, focusing on the floor as though he were a stranger. Adrian's voice was rough when he spoke. "Who hired this new cleaning service?" "Operations," Veronica replied. "Budget adjustments. You signed off." She tilted her head, studying him. "Is something wrong?" "No," he said, straightening his tie. "Tell the board I need to reschedule. Something urgent came up." Veronica blinked. Adrian Hale never rescheduled, but she nodded and walked off. Adrian drew a steadying breath and approached Clara. She continued scrubbing, her back rigid. "Clara," he said softly. She stiffened but didn't look up. "I'll be out of your way soon, sir." The word "sir" cut deeper than he expected. "Clara, it's me, Adrian." Slowly she rose to her feet. Up close, he could see the shadows under her eyes, the tiredness in her posture. But her eyes, those deep brown eyes, were exactly as he remembered. "I know who you are, Mr. Hale," she said evenly. "Everyone here does." He swallowed. "I can't believe it's really you." 20 years, she replied flatly. A supervisor hurried over. "Is there an issue here, Ms. Jennings?" "Mr. Hale?" "No problem," Clara said quickly. "I was just finishing up." "Ms. Jennings?" Adrian's heart jolted. "You never?" "Never married," she cut in. Her tone was firm, almost defiant. The supervisor hesitated, sensing tension, but Adrian dismissed him with a look. When they were alone again, silence pressed between them, heavy with years and unsaid words. "What happened to you, Clara?" Adrian finally asked. "Why are you cleaning floors?" she finished bitterly. "Because not all of us get to chase our dreams, Adrian. Some of us just survive." He felt shame crawl through him. "I looked for you. After my first year, I went back to Willow Creek. Your mother said you'd left." "My mother died," Clara whispered. 6 months after you did. Medical bills swallowed everything. College wasn't an option. I had nothing." Adrian's throat tightened. "I didn't know. I'm sorry." Her eyes flashed. "And what would you have done if you had known? Saved me? Sent money?" "It's too late." She gathered her supplies and turned away. "Please," he said, his voice breaking. "Just talk to me. After your shift." For a long moment she hesitated. Then she sighed. "I get off at 6. Coffee shop across the street." Relief swept through him. "I'll be there." She nodded once and walked away, leaving him standing in the gleaming lobby that suddenly felt like an empty shell. At 6 sharp, Adrian was waiting in a corner booth of the small cafe, dressed down in jeans and a plain shirt, nervous in a way he hadn't been in years. The place was cozy, filled with tired office workers, a world apart from his usual haunts. At 6:10 Clara walked in. Out of her uniform, she wore faded jeans and a worn blue sweater, her hair loose around her shoulders. She scanned the cafe, then slowly made her way to him. "I wasn't sure you'd come," Adrian said quietly as she sat. "I wasn't sure either." They ordered coffee. His black. Hers with cream and sugar, just like old times. "You look good," he said. "Please don't." Her tone was sharp. "No small talk. Just say what you need to say." Adrian leaned forward. "What happened to us, Clara? We had plans. We promised each other." Her hands tightened on her cup. "Life happened. My mother's illness, the debts. After she died, I was alone. Survival was all I had left. Why didn't you reach out? I would have helped." "With what? You were barely making it yourself back then." Her lips curved into a bitter smile. "Besides, your letters stopped coming." Adrian froze. "I wrote to you. For months. When you didn't reply, I thought you'd moved on." Her brow furrowed. "I never got them. After the first 3 months, nothing." A terrible suspicion stirred in him. "Your mother. She never liked me. Do you think?" Clara's eyes widened. "You think she kept them?" "I don't know," Adrian admitted. "But something doesn't fit." They sat in silence, the weight of stolen years between them. "That was another lifetime," Clara said finally, though her voice trembled. Adrian's gaze softened. "Tell me about your life. What happened after?" She hesitated, then sighed. "I worked whatever I could. Waitressing, retail, cleaning. Came to the city 10 years ago, still trying to finish a degree in night classes." "And you never married?" "No. Came close once. Didn't work out." "I'm sorry." "Don't be. It wasn't right." She looked at him directly. "What about you? The great Adrian Hale. Billionaire. Headlines." "There've been relationships," he admitted. "But nothing real. Nothing like what we had." Clara turned her gaze toward the window, blinking hard as though sheer willpower could hold her emotions in check. "Don't do that," she whispered. "Don't pretend what we had was something sacred when you clearly moved on without me." "I didn't." Adrian's voice cracked as he leaned across the table, stopping just short of touching her hand. "Clara, everything I built, every step, every deal, was because of you. I thought if I could become someone worthy of you, then maybe I'd have the right to find you again. And when I went back to Willow Creek, you were gone." Skepticism flashed across her features. "So you expect me to believe you built a billion-dollar empire for me? I'm not that naive anymore, Adrian." "Not for you," he corrected, his tone fierce but tender. "Because of you. Because you were the only one who believed in me when no one else did. You saw something in me I didn't even see in myself." Clara's eyes shimmered with unshed tears, but her voice was sharp. "It doesn't change anything. We're strangers now. Different people." "Are we?" Adrian's voice softened. "Because sitting here with you feels like coming home after being lost for 20 years. A tear slipped free and slid down her cheek before she could stop it. She brushed it away quickly, shaking her head. "I should go. This was a mistake." Adrian's chest constricted. Panic rose like a tide. He couldn't lose her again. Not when fate had handed her back to him. "Clara, please. Can I see you again?" She gripped the back of her chair, torn. "What? What's the point?" "Because I need to know if what I've carried all these years is real, or just a memory. Don't you want to know too?" Something flickered in her eyes, a fragile crack in the armor she'd built. She hesitated. "I don't know, Adrian. It's too much. Too sudden." "One dinner," he pressed. "That's all I'm asking. And if afterward you want nothing more to do with me, I'll respect it." Her gaze lingered on his face, searching, weighing. Finally, she gave the faintest nod. "One dinner. That's it." Relief flooded through him. "Thank you." As she turned to leave, he called after her softly, "Clara, I never forgot you. Not for a single day." She didn't answer, but he saw her pause briefly before disappearing into the night. Adrian collapsed back into his seat, heart hammering. The universe had granted him a second chance, and he would not waste it. The next morning, Adrian arrived at his office earlier than usual, dark circles under his eyes from a night spent replaying every word of their conversation. "Veronica," he said briskly as his assistant stepped in, "I need the full file on our janitorial services. Put it on my desk within the hour. And clear my evenings for the week. All of them." She frowned. "But you have the charity gala tomorrow, and dinner with the Japanese investors Thursday. Reschedule what you can. Send my regrets for the rest." His tone brooked no argument. Through the glass walls of his office, he found his gaze straying to the lobby below, hoping for another glimpse of her. but she didn't appear. By mid-afternoon, Veronica delivered the file. Adrian scanned it quickly. Brightstar Maintenance Services, a modest company known for hiring those who needed second chances. People with limited education, people like Clara. The following day he arranged a private meeting with the company's owner. Not to complain but to learn more, specifically about one employee who mattered more than he cared to admit. That evening he found himself descending to the lower floors where the night shift prepared. He spotted Clara in the break room tugging on her gloves, her hair pulled back. She looked exhausted. "Adrian," she said, startled. "What are you doing down here?" The other cleaners looked up, curious about the sharply dressed man in their space. "I wanted to catch you before your shift. About dinner. Are you free tomorrow night?" She darted a glance at her co-workers, who quickly pretended not to listen. "I've got a double shift tomorrow. Thursday's better." "Thursday it is," Adrian said quickly, smiling despite the stares. "I'll pick you up at 7. Where should I meet you?" She hesitated, uncomfortable. "I'll meet you somewhere. Not my place." "Fair enough. Where?" "The coffee shop. 7. Adrian nodded. "It's a surprise, but I promise, nothing extravagant." "I don't like surprises," she said flatly. "You used to." He grinned, and for the briefest instant she almost smiled. "Fine. But nothing fancy." "I'll see you at 7, he said softly. "And Clara? Thank you for giving me this chance." She turned back to her things without replying, but he caught the faintest tremor in her hand as she tightened her gloves. Back upstairs, Adrian stared out over the glowing skyline. For 2 decades he had chased power and success, believing it would fill the hollow space inside him. Now Clara was back and suddenly none of it mattered. He knew it wouldn't be easy. The walls around her heart were thick, built from loss, betrayal, and disappointment. Winning her trust would take more than charm or wealth. He would have to prove, truly prove, that he wasn't going to vanish again. And this time he would fight. Thursday evening came too fast for Clara. In her cramped bathroom she changed outfits 3 times, cursing herself for caring. Finally she settled on a simple navy dress she'd bought years earlier for an interview. It wasn't new, but it was the best she had. Her tiny apartment, with its peeling paint and unreliable heat, was worlds apart from Adrian's glittering empire. She touched up her lipstick just as her phone rang. "Tell me you're not really going out with Mr. Fortune 500, her neighbor Rita teased. "It's not a date," Clara insisted. "Just closure." Rita laughed. "Honey, I've lived next door for 5 years. I've never seen you this rattled over closure. That man still means something to you." "That was a long time ago," Clara muttered, though her racing heart betrayed her. "Just be careful," Rita warned. "Men like him don't cross the tracks without a reason." "Adrian isn't like that," Clara said quickly, and was startled by her own certainty. When she hung up, she grabbed her worn purse and stepped into the hallway, trying to ignore the flutter in her stomach. Adrian was already at the coffee shop when she arrived at 7 sharp. He had dressed down, dark jeans, a button-down shirt. When she walked in, his breath caught. She wasn't glamorous, but in that navy dress she was radiant. "You look beautiful," he said honestly. She gave him a wary smile. "Thank you. So, where to?" "Not far. We'll walk." Outside, she noticed the sleek black car with a driver waiting. Her brow arched. "I thought we were walking." "We are. That's just for later if you need it." They strolled side by side through quieter streets, the evening cool but pleasant. "I hope you still like Italian," Adrian said. "I do," she admitted. "Some things don't change." They stopped in front of a modest restaurant, its sign reading simply Marco's. Inside, the warmth of checkered tablecloths and the aroma of fresh pasta wrapped around them. An older man embraced Adrian warmly. "Adrian. It's been too long." "Marco, this is Clara," Adrian said. "An old friend." Marco's eyes twinkled knowingly. "Ah, a special friend." He led them to a private booth tucked beneath ivy. As they sat, Clara raised a brow. "This doesn't seem like your style." Adrian smiled. "When I first came to the city I was broke. Couldn't pay my bill here one night. Marco let me wash dishes instead. For 6 months I worked in his kitchen. He fed me when I had nothing. When my company took off I tried to buy the restaurant for him, but he refused. Said some places were meant to be homes, not businesses." Something in Clara's expression softened. This was a glimpse of the boy she once loved, hidden beneath the billionaire's polish. Dinner flowed easily. She laughed as he recounted his early failures, botched pitches, collapsing servers, investors walking out. "It was an overnight success," he admitted. It was failure after failure before I got one thing right. By dessert, the space between them felt smaller, the years thinner. Tell me about your classes, Adrian prompted as Marco served tiramisu. Clara shrugged. Business basics at the community college. Slowly working toward an associate's. At this pace, I'll graduate at 50. You'll graduate, Adrian said firmly. That's what matters. Their eyes met, and for a moment, it felt like no time had passed at all. Why did you really want dinner, Adrian? She asked quietly. Is this guilt? Curiosity? He exhaled. Because when I saw you again, I realized I've been successful in every way except the one that mattered. Clara, I was happiest when I was with you. That hasn't changed. Her breath caught at his candor. She had expected nostalgia, not this raw honesty. It's too much, she whispered. You can't just reappear after 20 years and expect me to open the door. I don't, he said earnestly. I just want a chance. To know you again. For you to know me now. Before she could respond, her phone buzzed. She frowned and stepped aside to answer. When she returned, her face was pale. What is it? Adrian asked quickly. That was my supervisor. Starting next week, our crew's being reassigned to other buildings. A different team is taking over your offices. She fixed him with accusing eyes. Did you do this? Adrian looked stricken. No. Clara, I swear I had nothing to do with it. Really? She shot back. Because it feels like quite a coincidence that after 20 years of silence, you show up, and suddenly my job changes. Clara, please. You have to believe me, Leona's preparation for the gala with Rita's help. The gala itself, including interactions with Isaac, James, Victoria, and the unexpected confrontation with Michael. Isaac defending his past business decisions and reconciling with Leona. Hints of new conflict brewing as James makes a secretive call. The aftermath at work, where Leona's status and attention from colleagues change. He leaned back slightly, studying her with that familiar intensity. Different worlds? He repeated, almost like tasting the words. Leona, yes, our lives have been different, but what makes you think that matters? You think my past girlfriends were my world, and that they define the limits of what's possible for us. Leona looked down at her hands, wrestling with the fear James had planted. It's not just fear, Isaac, it's reality. I've never been part of your circles. I don't know how to navigate them. I'm ordinary compared to everything you're used to. Isaac reached across the table, tilting her chin up so she met his gaze. Leona, do you really believe for a second that I care about the parties, the galas, the status? His voice softened, but it was firm. I care about you. Not your past, not your bank account, not what James thinks or what Victoria implies. You're not a distraction. You're the only person who's ever mattered to me truly. Her breath caught. She wanted to believe him desperately, but the weight of James' words still clung. And if it fails? She asked quietly. If I can't fit into your world and it all collapses? Isaac's fingers traced hers gently. Then we handle it together. But don't walk away before we even try because someone else decided your place in my life. He leaned closer, his forehead resting lightly against hers. I've spent 20 years waiting for a chance to make this right. Don't let the fear of the impossible stop us from having the real. Leona closed her eyes, letting his words seep in, battling her doubts and insecurities. When she opened them again, there was a quiet determination in her gaze. Okay, she whispered, barely audible. We'll try it together. Isaac's relief was immediate, his smile breaking into something radiant, warm and victorious. That's all I ask, he said softly, entwining their fingers. We face the world as us. Not your world, not mine, ours. Leona allowed herself a small, genuine smile. For the first time in days, maybe years, she felt a spark of hope that wasn't dimmed by doubt. Together they had a chance. And for now that was enough. Isaac took Leona's hands in his despite her earlier retreat, his grip gentle but unyielding. I don't care about different worlds or what anyone thinks is appropriate. I care about you, the woman you were, the woman you are now. If that means changes in my life, in the company and everything I've built, then so be it. None of it matters without you. Tears spilled down Leona's cheeks, her chest tight with conflicting emotions. It's not that simple, she whispered. It can be, Isaac insisted, his voice steady, his gaze unwavering. We make it simple by choosing each other, by refusing to let anyone or anything come between us again. She wanted desperately to believe him, to trust that their connection was strong enough to overcome the practical obstacles, the social divisions, the expectations of others. But James' words echoed in her mind, along with her own lifelong insecurities. I need time, she finally said, voice trembling. Time? How much? Isaac asked, a shadow of pain crossing his face. I don't know, Leona admitted. But I can't make this decision based on emotion alone. There's too much at stake. Okay, Isaac said, the single word heavy with reluctance. Take the time you need, but know this, I'll be waiting. However long it takes, whatever you decide, my feelings won't change. As they parted outside the coffee shop, their goodbye felt heavier than any they had shared before, laden with unspoken fears and the possibility that this separation might become permanent. Leona watched him walk away, her heart breaking even as her mind insisted she was doing the right thing. A week passed with no contact between them. Leona threw herself into her work, staying late at the office, taking on additional projects to keep her mind occupied. To her surprise, James left her alone, perhaps believing his tactics had worked, that she had ended things with Isaac for good. She hadn't seen him in the building, and office gossip suggested he was away on business. The distance helped her think more clearly, separating emotion from practicality, weighing what she truly wanted against what might be best for everyone involved. On Friday afternoon, Leona was working late again when Mark appeared at her desk. Don't you ever go home? He asked with a friendly smile. Home is just an empty apartment, she replied wearily. At least here I feel useful. Mark leaned against her desk. You know, for someone who supposedly just ended a relationship with the CEO, you don't seem very relieved. If anything, you look miserable. Is it that obvious? Leona asked, surprised. Only to those of us who have made the same mistake, he said cryptically. Giving up something real because it seemed too complicated. Leona looked at him curiously. What's your story? Mark sighed. Long-term relationship, different religious backgrounds, families opposed. We let it break us apart, thinking we were being practical, mature. Biggest regret of my life. What happened? Leona asked. I married someone my family approved of, have 2 kids now, and I'm still alone, wondering what might have been if I'd had the courage to fight for what mattered. He gave her a meaningful look. Don't make my mistake, Leona. Life's too short for practical heartbreak. His words stayed with her as she finally headed home, the empty office echoing with the weight of decisions unmade, words unspoken. Outside, rain had begun to fall, matching her melancholy mood. As her bus moved through the wet streets, Leona found herself thinking about the past week, about the emptiness she had felt since walking away from Isaac. She had told herself she needed time to think. But perhaps what she really needed was the courage to believe that some connections were worth fighting for regardless of the obstacles. By the time she reached her apartment building, Leona had made a decision. She would call Isaac tomorrow, ask to meet, tell him that she was ready to try to build something together, not because of their past but because of who they were now and who they could be to each other. As she entered the shabby lobby, soaked from the short walk from the bus stop, Leona was startled to find Rita waiting for her. There you are, Rita exclaimed. I've been trying to reach you for hours. My phone died, Leona explained. What's wrong? Rita's expression was urgent. It's all over the news. Donovan Enterprises. There's been some kind of scandal, accusations of fraud. They're saying the company might collapse. Leona felt the blood drain from her face. Isaac, she whispered. Is he okay? I don't know, Rita admitted. But from what I saw on the news, it's his brother who's at the center of it all. Rushing to Rita's apartment, they turned on the television. The business news covered the story in grim detail. Allegations that James Donovan had been falsifying reports, hiding losses, and misrepresenting the company's financial health to investors for years. Sources suggested CEO Isaac Donovan may have been unaware of his brother's activities, but questions remained about how such extensive fraud could occur unnoticed. Leona watched in horror, her mind racing. Was this why James had been desperate to remove distractions like her? Had he exploited Isaac's trust and focus on growth to hide his own unethical actions? Without hesitation, Leona grabbed her still damp coat. I have to go to him. Leon, this is a corporate scandal, Rita protested. What can you possibly do? I don't know, Leona admitted. But I know he needs someone right now. Someone who cares about him, not his money, not his company, not his reputation. He needs me. The trip to Isaac's penthouse took nearly an hour through the stormy streets. By the time she arrived, she was drenched and shivering but determined. The elevator doors opened directly into his dark penthouse. Isaac sat in the living room, a glass of whiskey in his hand, his expression bleak. He looked up as she entered, surprise momentarily replacing the devastation on his face. Leona, what are you doing here? I saw the news, she said simply, moving toward him. I needed to make sure you were okay. Isaac laughed bitterly. Okay? My brother has been systematically defrauding investors for years. The company might not survive. My employees could lose their jobs. Leona sat beside him, wet clothes soaking into the expensive couch. I'm so sorry, Isaac. He looked at her, really looked at her, noticing her drenched appearance and the concern in her eyes. Something softened in him. You came all this way in this weather just to check on me. Of course I did, she said simply. I care about you. Isaac set down his glass and ran a hand through his hair. I should have seen it. All the signs. James's resistance to audits, obsession with appearances. I trusted him completely. My own brother. You couldn't have known, Leona insisted. He deliberately kept you in the dark. A CEO should know everything about his company, Isaac said bitterly. I was too focused on growth, the future, on us. Leona felt a stab of guilt. Is that why you think he was determined to end our relationship? Because you might have started paying closer attention to the company? Isaac nodded slowly. Your presence made me question everything I'd accepted for years. James must have realized the threat that posed. They sat in silence, the rain beating against the windows. Finally, Leona spoke. What happens now? Isaac sighed. Best case scenario, I cooperate with investigators and rebuild. Worst case, criminal charges, bankruptcy, the end of everything I've built. And James already fled the country, leaving me to face the consequences alone. Leona reached for his hand, entwining her fingers with his. You're not alone. He looked at their joined hands, then at her face. I thought I'd lost you after our coffee shop talk. I was afraid you'd decided we couldn't work. I was afraid too, she admitted. Afraid of not belonging in your world, of being a distraction from what mattered. But I was wrong, Isaac. What matters isn't your company or your status or the different worlds we come from. What matters is this. She squeezed his hand. Us supporting each other, being there when it counts. A flicker of hope appeared in his eyes. Does this mean you're willing to try despite everything? My life is about to become complicated, very public, potentially very difficult. Leona smiled gently. My life has been complicated for 20 years. I'm not afraid of that. I'm only afraid of walking away from something real because I was too scared to believe in it. Isaac pulled her close despite her wet clothes. I don't deserve you, he murmured. Probably not, she replied softly, laughing. But you've got me anyway. They held each other as the storm raged outside, a physical manifestation of the turbulence ahead. For the first time in years, perhaps in their lives, neither felt alone in facing what came next. The following months were arduous. Investigators swarmed Donovan Enterprises, Isaac fought tirelessly to save the company, and Leona stayed by his side, offering support and grounding him in moments of despair. Slowly, the truth emerged. James had manipulated financial records for years, motivated by pride, fear, and desperation. Donovan Enterprises survived, downsized and restructured, while Isaac and Leona's relationship deepened. The artificial barriers between their worlds fell away, leaving two people committed to facing life together. 1 year after the scandal, on a quiet evening in the park where they had spent so many hours talking, Isaac asked Leona to marry him. I don't have as much to offer as I once did, he said, holding a simple ring. Leona smiled, her heart full. I have all I need, she whispered, taking his.